then, you know, the people that we lost, I didn't, you know, I still have not said anything about, you know, Tiny Lister, you know, passing. But, you know, to grow up here in LA and to know him all my life, you know, I want everybody else to do their thing, you know, and I have these stories, and I've been telling some of these stories to some friends of mine, uh, about just growing up here in LA and, you know, being on certain films with him. And I was telling somebody earlier, we were flying back from Texas. We went down to Texas. It was myself, Tommy Ford, Kumo D was in that movie. It'll never see the day of light, so I'm not even going to say its name because somebody might dig it up. But it was just a fun experience to be with those guys for you know, a month and a half. And we were we wrapped, flew home, and I think we flew back for the wrap party. And we were flying back from Houston from the wrap party. And there was, oddly enough, two A-list casting directors in first class on that flight. And then it was, Tiny was sitting across the aisle from them. And Tommy Ford and I were behind Tiny. And somebody passed gas on the plane. And it wasn't, it was, there was no one sitting next to Tiny. And I know it wasn't Tommy because Tommy and I were talking. And I don't think it was the two A-list casting directors. I'm not going to mention their names because I'm not going to say anything. It was just weird, one of those weird things. And he didn't care, you know, because he's the sweetest brother in the world. He would give you anything. He would always break for kids and get out of his car, whatever. And he just got up out of the seat and he said, "Who the hell fought it? Who fought it? That is some nasty, disgusting." And he just went on and on, right? And so Tommy and I looked at each other and we're gone. We're laughing now. And he's walking up and down the aisle in first class. He said, "If I find out who did it, I'm going to crush your skull." Right? And so we thought maybe he was, you know, putting on an act or something, you know, doing Zeus. No, he was dead ass serious. But he apologized to everyone in first class. It was one of those late flights where no one was really in that section. So he apologized. But I think of those times like that with him, you know, and I'm going to miss him dearly. And the last time
we lost a legend.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, he was just commending me on, you know, my performance in Badlands. So I just had to say that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this year it seems like, you know, we've watched. I mean, for me, I think the hardest part about every time we lose somebody, especially this year, is, and I've lost like 5, you know, and not being able to say that proper goodbye. Because for me, like, I won't do a funeral for somebody that I care about on a Zoom. Like, I just can't do it. For me, I'd rather wait until there's a time for me to go and pay that respect. So a lot of times for me, it's like, it's been holding a lot in and not trying to, exactly you said, like, you know, there's certain things you may want to talk about, but then it's just like, you know what, I don't feel if that person is a friend of mine or somebody that I cared about deeply, I'm doing respect justice enough by just making an Instagram post and not having my final moment with them, whether it be at the funeral. And it's like, you know, for me, it was like when, like, our brother, when Christoph died. And, you know, that was a day for me that was one of the hardest days I've ever gone through. Being at that cemetery, being at that funeral, it didn't even seem real. Like, it seemed like we were in this dream. And it was maybe a month afterwards that they had the service, you know, and for the whole month I didn't cry. Like, I just didn't cry. I was like, because it was still, I'd be looking at my text messages that we would share back and forth.
Same here.
And you're still not connecting the dots. And it wasn't until at the funeral, and it was me and Shamar Moore, and they were like, the groundskeepers, guess, had came out. This was the first time I ever seen this at a funeral. Christoph's son was in the same burial plot.
Yeah.
And they came out and they legitimately started carving Christoph's name onto the tombstone. And it was at that moment, to me, everything was real. And I lost it. It was uncontrollably to the point, because it's like, when you see someone's name someone that I've known for over 20 years, and his name being carved into a tombstone. You're like,
it's finality, man. It's finality.
It's finality.
Yeah.
And it's been a hard struggle, you know, but I think in a sense, number one for me, you know, what I've always been the testament of people that I've cared about. And I think for us as artists who are all in this sort of same community, especially, you know, for example, when it's another Black brother, because, you know, our industry, as you know, there's not too many of us. There's a lot of us.
There's a lot of us, yeah.
But there's that small spectrum that get the opportunities.
And we all know each other because there's only 4 living rooms in Hollywood. You know what I mean? So regardless, if you live in Vancouver, Toronto, you know, Dublin, there's still 4 living rooms. We all know somebody. We're all touched, you know. So, you know, that whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, we've all, and once you've been in this business so long, you know, you accumulate all of this in these things and people that you dig and some that you don't dig, you know, and just like you, hearing about Christoph really took me aback. I was working, so I couldn't make it that day.
Yeah, I was hoping that day.
And I was working, so I was just like, you know, you put things in perspective. You know what I mean? We're only here for 25 seconds anyway. But I mean, I try to enjoy myself even if I'm not doing nothing. When I'm doing nothing, I'm still doing something, you know. So I try.
That's the name of the game as an artist, man.
Yeah.
That's the name of people. That's what I'm saying about this pandemic.
Right.
You know, people are like, you know, you know, people are losing their jobs, they're losing their livelihood. And I'm like, look, us as artists, this is a time when we are the most creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we've got time.
Exactly.
You know, our people, we don't work a 9 to 5. We don't do the clock in and clock out. To me,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's still a job. You know, let's not get it twisted. It's still a job because when you're working, like, you know, damn, I got to get up to go to work this morning. You know, fudge. So, trust me, even when you have those long spurts when you don't work and you start working, you're like, man, come on, man, I got to go to work today. That whole thing.
Yeah, because it's mental grinding.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is using real emotions. You know, I can think about Christoph. I can think about Tiny. I can think about Grandma. I can think about certain things that's real to me. That'll take me there to my behavior. And that's one thing as artists we can use, especially with this year. You know, we all been pissed off and mad about something almost every day. So these are the things that you can use emotionally. And I can say that each time I landed something that was really good, there was certain behavior, real behavior that I can use. And those who, you know, you work with and they get to know you better and inside and out, and they know you know, they know your mechanics. But it's always refreshing when you find something that you haven't used, you know, that real emotion, that real sense of what it's just being in the moment. And you can just recall that moment as an actor. You can recall that moment when they came out and started doing that. You know, you can use that and just fly with that. And it's something beautiful about what we do when you're able to connect with your own personal feelings to something that when you know, a writer wrote it. You didn't write unless you wrote it. So you have to make that real. And so the only way to do that is just think about real stuff that you've been through. And, you know, definitely right now, 2020, Stranger Things, I'm using that, bro. It's on. It's on. So yeah, it's interesting.